Oh my goodness, we're finally here, guys. We are so thankful and glad that you're here. My name is Jed Dorsey. Welcome to this workshop and challenge. I am here not by myself. I got two friends with me right now. Mr. Peter Stout, who is
Good
here,
morning, everybody. Happy to be here.
and the wonderful Diana Shine.
Oh, hi, everyone. It's so good to be here and great to see everyone introducing themselves. This is fabulous.
Oh man,
Absolutely. We
so
got a
fun,
full
so
house today.
fun. Full
Yeah.
house. We are glad that you're here wherever you are coming in from, and we're just so thankful. We work really hard at these workshops, and we want you to get the most out of them. So thank you for being here, and thank you for honoring us with your time. We want to honor you
Mhm.
with your time also. And I just want to let you guys know that you want to make sure that you come to all the sessions. Diana is going to be teaching and demonstrating on Wednesday, and then she's going to be teaching again on Friday. And so you guys just like, there's going to be so many great things that you will get out of this workshop. And so just make sure that you set your calendar and show up every day because it's going to be worth it. So
Yes.
Diana, thank you so much for being here, saying hi to everybody. And Peter, also
Mhm.
so thankful to have an awesome team to work with. I'm going to jump into the
Absolutely.
slides right now because
All
we got a
right.
lot to get through,
You
and
got the
we're going to
stage,
do it
Jed.
like this. Okay, so you hopefully know where you are. If you didn't know that this is what it was, here's the deal. We got Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Each session will be about 90 minutes. There's going to be instruction, a demonstration, and prizes, and then there will be a Q&A. So if you are not getting a question answered throughout during the chat, you can always stay till the end and we'll try to answer any questions. The replays will be available throughout the duration of the workshop, and you can go to thelandscapeworkshop.com and have a direct link to the dashboard. If you are doing any paintings and you want to share them on social media, we would love for you to use the hashtag Acrylic Landscape 2023. And you can also tag us at Acrylic University or Jed Dorsey Art. And we just want to say thank you so much to our Acrylic University family and the Acrylic University team who makes everything happen. We are so thankful. And we also want to say thank you to you. You showed up today, and that matters. Or maybe you're going to be watching this later. And we just thank you for participating in this workshop because it's really fun for us to have people show up to our events, and you matter to us. We're not just saying that. You matter, and you are meant to be here. Art is more than just skills. Art is an adventure. And every one of us has a story. And I don't know about you guys, but my story has had blessing and struggle and redemption and hope. And I feel like God saved me out of addiction and all sorts of darkness and gave me something cool to do with art that is a way to communicate hope and joy. And so I'm glad that you're here. But I know that it's easy to be impatient with ourselves and our progress and stuff. So my encouragement to you is be patient. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with the process because we're all on our own journey. And let's avoid comparison. Like I said, we all come from different places. We have different backgrounds. We have different stories. And honestly, guys, comparison is just the thief of joy. We are like different types of trees, right? Like all trees are super awesome, and we're studying trees today, right? So the question that I have for you, and I'd love for you to throw it in the chat, is what is your favorite type of tree? And I'm gonna look, guys. I see people coming in from all over Colorado, California, Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, Georgia, Newfoundland. Gosh, it's so great to see everybody, and I'm looking forward to seeing the trees that show up because it's always interesting here. Oak, pine, uh, catalpa, maple, hemlock, juniper, birch, evergreen, pine, willow. Hey, that's an awesome one. Palm tree, aspen, river birch, willow tree. I love it. I love it. I love it so much. In fact, I love trees so much. My wife and I love trees so much that we named our daughter Willow. So willow is one of our favorite trees. And anyways, but see, everybody's got a different tree. Apple trees. I mean, you got to love fruit trees, right? So anyways, we are here today. We are painting trees. And I want to remind you, this is a workshop, but it is also a challenge. And a challenge is a call to summons to engage in any contest as a skill or strength, or it's a difficulty in a job or undertaking that is stimulating to the one engaged in it. So the reason I show this is because some of what you're going to learn and stuff like that, it's really fun and exciting and engaging, but it's also challenging. Look, if you're trying to grow in your art, that almost automatically means that it's going to be challenging, because we're learning something, and it's not like A plus B plus C, like, oh, it's just so easy to put everything together in the right order and then every painting turns out exactly the way that you wanted it to. It's more of a journey, and I want to remind you, you are loved and believed in. We're glad that you're here. So let's just have fun. Let's embrace that challenging nature of what we're going to do, and let's commit ourselves to having fun. So this is my next question for you guys. Are you ready for this? Because what I want to see in the chat is some answers like this. Yes, I am ready. And my favorite, I was born ready. So guys, I want to see it in the chat, and then we're going to be jumping into this really quickly here. Let's go. I love it. I love it. I love it. Absolutely. Born ready. Roar, of course. Absolutely. Born for it. Absolutely. Yes, I've been waiting for this. Bring it. Yes, yes, yes. On fire. Let's go. Okay. So I won't take too long here, but I just want to remind you that what you're going to get out today is 3 practical ways to make trees in your paintings look more believable and beautiful. And I got to just check something out here, because okay, so this says demonstration. What it really means to say is this is time that we're going to give you the instructional part of this. And so Peter, let's roll that. You guys ready? We are looking at trees here, and there's a great poem that I memorized a long time ago by this guy named Joyce Kilmer, and he says, "I think that I shall never see a poem as lovely as a tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the earth's sweet flowing breast, a tree that looks at God all day and lifts her leafy arms to pray, a tree who may in summer wear a nest of robins in her hair, upon whose bosom snow has lain, who intimately lives with rain. Poems are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree." And I might say, we might say, paintings are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree. Our best efforts really don't represent trees in their fullest, the way that we see them with their majesty and their beauty and everything. But I wanted to draw your attention to this word right here, because if we want to learn how to paint a tree, we need to see trees, and that's what this first part is going to be about. So I love trees, and like I said, I've painted quite a few, but when we start talking about trees, we have to think, well, what type of tree are we talking about? Is it this type of tree? Or is it this type of tree? Or is it this type of tree? And there are just so many different kinds of trees in the world. But really what we're going to be talking about today is hopefully stuff that will help you paint any type of tree, no matter where you live, no matter what you're looking at, because we're going to be really talking about observation. And to do it, I'm going to use this photo here, which obviously does have a few trees, but it's largely not just about a tree, but there's some basic principles that will help us as we are thinking about how we go about painting trees, because we're going to talk about values, and we have our lights, which this is my value scale that I like to use. One of the traditional ones, going from 1 being white to 9 being black, and all the values in between. And basically 1 to 3 is lights, 4 to 6 is midtones, and 7, 8, and 9 are darks. And when we start looking at a scene like this, it's helpful to kind of think back on some ideas that are general principles. And so we're going to look at them right now, because generally the lightest value in a landscape is going to be your sky. That's where the sun is. It's usually lit up more than anything else. So generally, sky. The second lightest value will come on your flat ground. And that is because in general, it's usually going to be reflecting the most sunlight. Either on a sunny day or on a cloudy day, it's going to be catching that sunlight and reflecting it. And generally, it's the second lightest value. The third lightest value is what is called an oblique, and that's something that's at an angle. You could think of hills or mountains or something like that, or the roof of a building where it's kind of at an angle. And then your darkest value will usually come from a vertical. That could be buildings, poles, or in our case, trees. So trees, because of the vertical nature of their trunks, often have dark values when we compare them to other things. But there are always exceptions. And you can see, this tree has a white type of bark, and it's obviously not as dark as other parts of the scene. Although back here, these are other trees, and in the dark areas of these shadows, that is our darkest accent. So this doesn't mean that you can apply this across the board. There are times when the ground is snowy and the sky is dark and cloudy, and the ground will be lighter than the sky. There are always going to be exceptions, but as a general rule, those principles apply and can be helpful for us. So these are a few paintings. This is actually the second painting that I think I ever painted as an acrylic artist, and it was trees. And I painted trees. This is another early painting, and a lot of blobby kind of things going on. I've experimented a lot, and I've painted in different styles, and I've learned a few things. And so I'm going to give you a few key principles that I've learned as we are looking specifically at trees. And this is one. Key number 1, soft edges. Trees are not solid objects. Think broken, soft edges where branches meet the sky. And one of the things I've loved about being an artist, and I know you've probably already experienced this, or if you haven't yet, you will get to enjoy this, because as you begin trying to paint things, what inevitably happens is that you start looking at them when you encounter them in the natural world. So as I start thinking about how do I paint a tree, I start looking up at trees, and I start noticing things that I never noticed. But you can see how broken this edge is. It's not a solid edge. It's different than this house here. This house has a very solid edge kind of to it, but the tree is very broken. You can see again, this is a very kind of hard edge compared to these trees. And even these different types of trees, these fir trees here, they still have a broken edge, a softer feel as they meet the sky. I'm going to show you a couple different artists here. This is Scott Christensen, a great artist, and you can see again just how soft the edge of these trees, these leaves, as they meet up against the sky. And this is Ovanus berberian, another really different style than Scott Christensen, but you can see the same thing because he uses less brush strokes, bigger brush strokes, but up here at the top, you can see more of a broken edge, softer transition, light shining through. See that, the scratchy nature of that brush stroke up there. Here's one of my paintings, and you can see this is something that I worked on quite a bit to try to get these edges to be softer, and back here, soft edges and soft edges. So soft edges where a tree meets the sky is one of your keys to remember. A second key is receding values. This again is another principle that is more generic than just for trees, but it is actually quite helpful because as we're looking at things in the world, we need to open our eyes and kind of turn off the premeditated or the thoughts that have been there in our minds, because as one artist I was listening to recently said, we have these shortcuts. It's in our vocabulary, and we've made these shortcuts with our thinking about what we see also. And so we say trees are green, and yet that will hinder us if we aren't able to observe the differences. And so as trees that are farther away they change. There's less red and yellow, there's more blue that stays, and there's a less of a dark accent. So you can see that pretty easily here. These trees that are closer to us are darker, and there's more yellow and red. So this green here is more vibrant, you could say, than this green of these exact same kinds of trees that are back here. These have lighter shadow areas, and they're more bluish in general. So this is the same exact tree, same exact shadow, but as it goes farther away, it's much lighter, and there's more of a bluish tone to it. Same thing if we look at this. This tree has more, it's darker. It has more yellow, even though we can't see that much, but we can see a little bit more of the red tones in here. As that goes farther away, it gets more blue, it gets lighter, the shadows become less dark. And then we can observe that in really great paintings again. This shadow area here is darker than these same shadow areas that are same exact trees back here. This color is more saturated than the shadow areas back here. Now this is in shadow, so it's not this area up here, maybe if this was in sunlight more, we would see more of the exaggeration in the saturation, because this appears pretty saturated because it's compared to a shaded area here. But if you trust me on this, anything that's closer to us will have more saturation. You can see there's more blue, and it's less saturated back here than it is, compared to the trees that are closer to us. Again, same thing here. More saturation, deeper shadows, less saturation, more blue as it goes farther away. The same thing in mine, where there's deeper shadows, it recedes back, each layer it gets further back. You see more bluish tones, less dark values. Okay, so key number 3 to create and paint really beautiful paintings of trees is to avoid symmetry and uniformity. So this right here is much more interesting than this. This is kind of boring. And one of the hardest commissions I ever had to paint was one where a person, I never actually met the person, it was done through a gallery, but I was given 4 reference photos of one tree. It looked kind of like this, but there was a lake behind it, but you couldn't see that much, except they were all square images, and there was a tree centered in the picture, and it was in different seasons. One was winter, one was spring, one was summer, one was fall. And I struggled with that because I had no other reference trunk. And I had to try my best to make it interesting, to make 4 distinct paintings that were interesting. So I'm just saying, if I had a painting like this, it would have been, or a reference photo like this, it would have been much easier, because by the nature of this shape, it's quite a bit more interesting than this. And even if we're looking at a scene that has more to it, one of the things that we want to avoid is lining each of these trees up and making them identical. See how this is different. There's a gap, there's a small one, there's a different color one, there's another little stand of trees, there's a little one, you know. All of this is interesting because there's variety here. These trees are not all the same up here. There's different kinds of trees, there's different shapes of trees, there's different sizes of trees, and all of this stuff matters if we want to make a scene interesting. So here are the 3 keys that we're going to look at right now. Soft edges. Now this is a painting by Edgar Payne, and you can see these softer edges up at the top. There's a softer transition. The light is hitting the tops of these trees, and it's a softer transition. We've got receding values, where these values are lighter, the shadow areas are lighter, and it's more of a bluish tone as it goes back. We can really see that exaggerated back here, where that is so much lighter than these shadow areas, and yet it's the same. There are these same trees back there, there's same shadows back there as there are up here. So and then again, avoid symmetry and uniformity. Look how interesting these trees are. Look at how different they all are and how unique, and that's what makes this painting so interesting, and that's why we want to learn from great artists like Edgar Payne. And so having these things in our minds, soft edges, receding values, avoid symmetry and uniformity, we're actually going to do our first exercise after this. Thank you for being here on this one, and I will see you in the studio. All right, for this demo, I toned my canvas with a wash of cadmium yellow light. So just mix a little bit of water in it, put on a thin coat of that. And I also wanted to mention that I do not have black in my paint box. I have phthalo green next to my ultramarine blue. And when I mix phthalo green with red, it creates a very deep and dark mix that is black-like. So if I refer to a black-like mix, it is made out of phthalo green and red. And the main reason I mention that is because I put black on my supply list. So I don't want to throw anybody off. I'm not using actual black. I'm using phthalo green mixed with the red. But we're going to start with just getting this drawing on. And as I'm putting on the first brush strokes, I'm thinking about how can these trees be an interesting shape. Now, I painted a scene that I thought the trees actually had an interesting shape. I mean, I'm looking at a reference that I liked already. So I'm not changing too much about the tree shape from what it is in the reference photo because I already like it. But it's something that I'm aware of and I'm thinking about in this composition. We have these fence posts that also are kind of nice. I always love something like that. It's a natural, such an easy way to lead our eye up into the painting. They don't distract in this scene or anything, so they're great. And I'm adding a little bit of blue and a little bit of white into this to create a little bit more of a gray. It's still not light by any means. It's going to be in the mid-tones, but I'm also thinking as we're looking at these layers of trees, I want to distinguish the dark, and maybe we could call it the dark accent that we have in the front trees, and the trees that are further back, they're going to be pushed back. We're putting more blue into that so that there's a definite sense of distance here. And I'm doing this right off the bat. I don't always, follow this exact order, but as these shapes are so important to this, I just wanted to make sure that I had these kind of established, and if they needed to be adjusted later, they could be. So I've added a little bit of yellow and a little bit of red now, because again, I'm trying to get the color and the value and the temperature kind of right. So adding a little bit of warmth is going to pull some of those trees forward toward us a little bit more, and just bring them closer to us, and again differentiate them from the layer of trees and hill in the background. So just trying to create a dark mix here. I really love this scene with such a nice sense of distance. Although it's quite open, there's enough with the trees and the hills in the background to really see quite a ways. And sometimes what I've observed other artists do, and what I will often try to do myself, is if I see that distance in reality, then if the scene needs it, sometimes I will exaggerate that distance a little bit, just by maybe pushing those values a little bit more, or having the colors be slightly more exaggerated. This foreground tree that hangs down is really nice also, because it also frames this scene for us, and it kind of provides another thing that we're looking through, we're looking past, and gives a sense of depth, because it's perhaps the closest thing to us besides the fence post. It's kind of overhanging, and so there's a nice sense of depth and darkness to it. But I'm also grabbing some of the lighter values and putting them in there, more like a mid-tone green. So I've mixed in a little bit of yellow, and that's just because we don't want that to be, completely flat. We want that to be nuanced and have some variety in it. And I'm not necessarily yet trying to achieve the softness, but I am, in a way, because I know that I'm going to come back over this. I'm going to paint around this later, and there's more opportunities to get a softer edge on these branches and these leaves. But I'm already using a bit of a dry brush. I'm not laying it down so thick that there's a really sharp edge on those branches and the tree leaves. So those soft edges, we gotta just keep that in mind as you're painting anything up. The light of the sky is going to be coming through. There's going to be a whole bunch of broken edges, and so what can we do at this stage to lead us in that direction? These are not by any means necessarily the final brush strokes. You have lots of opportunities to come back through, break up the edges more, soften the lines, but you want to be using brush strokes that make that easier on yourself if you can, so that you can save your little bit of time and energy in correcting later. So we've got already in this the three things that we're really concentrating on. We've got interesting shapes for the trees, those tree trunks on the right. We've got depth with the trees that are further away, receding in value and becoming a little bit more blue. And we're working on the broken edges and the softer edges in the sky. So we'll just keep working on those things as we go, but there are other parts to the scene as well. So we're filling in some of this shadow area here on the grass that's behind the other trees. So I've pulled in a little bit more of a blue-green kind of color. I like this as a shadow color to contrast with the warmer sunlit area, and it will be reflecting some of the sky, which generally I'm already thinking will do kind of similar to what it is, but I might change that also. There's these hills back further that I want to start putting in a different plane. You know, we've got the hill that comes up from the left and it goes up into the sunlight, and then back behind there's another area that we can see kind of getting touched by some sun, and then there are these individual or maybe a couple trees, pairs of trees that are in between us and those more solid layer of trees that are further back. So just little details that we're still trying to get in. This is really pretty much still a block in, the block in stage where we're just kind of getting the elements of the scene onto the canvas, and we're going to evaluate it continually as we paint, because not everything that I put down right now, it might not be 100% accurate later. As we put down something else, we'll realize, oh, we need to adjust that. So that's kind of the approach that I take generally, is try to get it as accurate as I can without spending too much time in this initial block in, because I know that I'll have time to come back and adjust later. Okay, so I'm also going to start putting on some branches. I don't want them to be quite as dark as the tree trunks because I don't want them to stand out too much. And I'm also wanting to start filling in the sky. It's one of the last places that really needs to be filled in before we can start seeing the whole scene, the whole canvas kind of covered. And this is again where I'm going to be doing a gradation. You can see that the sun is setting, or it looks like it's going down behind those trees, and so it's as light as it ever is in that side right behind those trees, and then it's going to get a little bit deeper and push towards blue as it comes out from there. So that's what I'm doing right now, is just getting the values and the color generally in, and then we'll come back and start refining. I probably have a few more things to fill in, but this will allow us to be able to see the picture as a whole piece. And really, I really like working this way, kind of step at a time, step at a time. You know, you think through the design, you draw the design onto your canvas, you block in the colors, and at that point you have a basic painting in place, and you can start refining and adjusting things. And so that will be the next thing, where we really look and evaluate and start to try to create form, you know, try to get the little nuanced things, like where there might be reflected light, or there's a little bit more interest in the grass or the trees, or maybe the sky needs to be adjusted a little bit. Whatever those small adjustments are, we can see them so much easier when we have the context for the painting. And so then
at the final stage, of course, is you want to be able to finish your painting. And I usually like to think that there's time to step back and look at it, so that you can again look at it with fresh eyes. And now I'm going to mix up a lighter yellowish color with cadmium yellow and some of the white and just a tiny bit of green. But this is going to help tie in, and fill in a little bit of that sunlit grass. And it's kind of important because it does tie our eye, or it helps our eye journey back further into the painting, which is really fun. That bit of grass that's further away, the fields that are lit up by the sun, and they are just a nice little accent back there. So we'll get another dark color here, a bit darker, and we're gonna start establishing the tree leaves. There's whenever you're looking at a reference photo, you always keep in mind that you're not necessarily going to see everything super well, but the photo is a pretty good photo, so we can use it. But here I am going at the soft edges again, and you can see the little brush strokes that I'm taking or making, and how they are done with a bit of a dry brush, so that those edges are remaining quite soft. But we're hopefully going to be able to add in a little bit of depth here, maybe cool down some of the colors a little bit, with a little bit deeper green, so we can have a sense of the light coming. Whenever you are putting light into a scene, you also want to make sure that you're having enough of the deeper value. You need some sort of sense of the dark accent, so that the light actually looks light. And now I'm just trying to think through this tree trunk and the shape of it. Again, how can it be interesting? Where do the branches come off? Do we see every part of the branch? All these things are, questions to have in mind when you're thinking about how do we paint trees, how do we make them interesting, and how do we put them into a scene where they make sense and they fit in with what the scene is saying. And maybe they're the focal point of the scene, or maybe they're there to tell part of the story. And I think in this scene, they're not necessarily the main player. It's not like the trees are dead center, or like they're really the focal point, but they are an important part of the scene, because they really do create the context of the scene. Those trees on the right and the ones on the left, that are the one that overhangs. I mean, those really frame the picture for us, and we look past them, we see what's there in the background. So that can influence the kind of decisions you make, how much detail you put in the trees. Maybe I don't want them to be distracting. I don't want them to draw too much attention, because they're not the main player. But if your tree was your main player, it was your focal point, you'd of course want to have it be that the eye is really drawn to that. And in this case, I think that it's part of the focal area in a way, but they really are there to, the ones on the right, they're there to help point our eye and get our eye looking back further. So even things like the shape of the branches, just little things that can help so much of painting. And this this artwork is really just about design and trying to get people to see the scene like you want them to see it. And the more that you understand a little bit about the way that um, the the design can help with that, and you're just going to be uh, able to paint a scene with so much greater joy because it's going to be working. The design is going to be working. I love a scene like this also because of this great light that is happening. We have highlights on the trees, which I've made out of, more cadmium yellow light and a little bit of ultramarine blue, white, um, and I accidentally did throw in a little bit of phthalo green on there. I'm trying not to use the phthalo green so much as a green because it's not in your supply list. I'm mostly just trying to use it as a way to make my black mix. But these highlights are, the sun is shining from the left. So I'm intentionally kind of making the majority of the highlights on the left side of the groupings of the branches, like where there's a bunch of leaves. I'm bringing the highlights more on the side where the sun is coming. And I mean that's fairly logical and makes a lot of sense, but all these little decisions that you make along the way help paint the picture. They help portray the scene and tell the story. And I heard a friend who's an artist say recently, he said, like, I really think that every painting needs a story. What's the story of your painting? And it's not something that you necessarily have to say out loud or tell the viewer. The viewer doesn't even need to know what the story is of your painting. But when I think of this, like I think, well, what's the story for me? Um, I think that the story it has to do with the late light and the sunlight coming through from the left. It has to do with these trees and the fields, but the sunlight itself is a large part of the story for me. So the way that I'm going to, even put in these colors, which are warmer, it's more like red and yellow and, you know, kind of brownish mix by the time, because I've got some green and different, like as the base still in my brush, but it's creating a little bit more of a warm orangish color, and now some highlights on those trees that are further away, but trying to make them a little bit less intense or chrome, like saturated with the richest colors, just so that they're um, maybe looking a little further away. But these highlights and all this work is, again, it's kind of helping tell the story of the sun that's going down and shining its rays on this beautiful scene. And so I like that idea of telling a story with your painting, even if no one else knows what it is. What is the story that you're trying to tell? And there's these little gaps between some of the tree trunks and places where we can see the field behind poking through or peeking through. And again, you don't need a ton of little details like that, because too many will be overwhelming, too many will be distracting, but a few are really nice. They help make that um, interesting and potentially become more of like a focal point or a secondary focal area. But one of the things that I was looking at here is that the sky is quite yellow. And I kind of thought to myself, it would be interesting to see this sky be a little bit more, have a little bit more of almost peach or, you know, a little bit of red. So I mixed a little bit of the red in with my white to get right around the area where the sun comes out. And I want to work on that light in the sky some more. It's such an important part for me that I really think it can help tell this story so much. And I also think that we could bring it a little bit further to the right, that area that's lit up. So that's what I'm going to work on here. It's kind of establishing or bringing that nice light that's just over the horizon further to the right, and hopefully that will also tie it in. You know, like I said before, that the sunlight is a big part of the story, and the sky is one of the main players, you know, where the sunlight can be seen. So just kind of tying it all together. I've added that red into this mix a little bit more so you can see it's less green and it's becoming a little bit more of a violet mix. The sky is still light, so it's a very light violet, but I thought that this color would work well with the scene. I think it will help differentiate the tree and all the green that is in the scene already just a little bit better than the color that I had on the sky prior.
Okay, guys, I wanted to just jump in here because I see a lot of questions, and I wanted to just get you thinking about one thing here. You know, because what we're really working on now, my painting may feel like it's further along. You may be having a hard time keeping up with it, and I just want to say, don't worry about keeping up with it, because if you're trying to paint along, it will probably be more frustrating than helpful. And so I really strongly recommend just watching and coming back later and trying to paint at your own speed, because it's hard to keep up. I'm moving quickly, and we're trying to, you know, like I'm on a demonstration like this, I'm trying to get it done in a certain amount of time so that it doesn't take all day to show you like what we're trying to show you. So don't feel pressure to do that. But the main point is to think, as you're watching this, think about these things. And as you're going to be painting later, think about these things: the soft edges, the receding values, and the interesting shapes. And so I just want to ask you really quickly, what one of those, if you were to look at that and say, what is the thing that you want to work on the most? If you, maybe you've painted trees in the past and you've thought, I don't like every part of it, but maybe you didn't understand, or maybe you didn't see what would help. And maybe just thinking, oh yeah, maybe the edges, maybe soft edges in the sky would help. Maybe the receding values would help. Maybe if it was more interesting in the shape, that would help. But I just want to ask you, what is it for you that you think it would be? Because I don't want you to be, okay, I see lots of values, edges and the interesting shapes, edges, soft edges, values, all of them. I know sometimes for me, the nice thing is that it's not overwhelming to actually think about all of them, because they're related to different parts of the painting. So when you're, you know, thinking about the shape of the tree, a lot of that's done at the very outset, right? You're designing the painting. And then when you're painting the tree leaves and the sky, that's a different area of the painting than when you're painting the background. So as things go further away from you, you know, it's kind of easier for us to look at all three of these aspects and put them into practice. But I just wanted to jump in here quick because I don't want you to feel frustrated with the fact that it's faster than you can paint along to. So that's my main thing. And I also want to just say really quickly, some of you are asking again, where can we find this later if I need to come back to it? And you can always go to the landscapeworkshop.com. That is a direct link to the dashboard. You can also get to it if you go to acrylicuniversity.com. You'll end up on the homepage and you'll see there is a dashboard button right there on the homepage. And also, guys, if you want to make sure that you don't miss the next lesson, go to the site and sign up for the text alerts. We have as much stuff that can help you as possible. Like if you go, you're like, I don't know what paint he was using. I don't know the supply list. You can go on the site and there's a little button down there at the bottom, a little chat button, and you can type your questions in there. But the main thing here is this, guys. Don't feel pressure to paint along with it. I'm going to roll this again and we're going to keep going with the demo. And then in a little bit here, when it's time, we're going to stop again and we're going to give away the prize for today. So make sure you stick around for that because we want you to get it. And I just want to say this, if you want to win the prize, all the rest of them after this are going to be given to people who have done homework and submitted it. But today we don't have any homework that's due already, right? So today your homework is chatting in this chat. And if you chat, you'll have the opportunity to win the prize. So anyways, enough talking from me right now. I'm going to put the video back up and let's see what we can do.
And this is where, this part of the painting is, I'm painting the sky, but I'm shaping the leaves and some of the branches. I don't want to cut through the branches. And this type of thing could be done on the background. You could paint the sky color first, and then you could paint the trees over the top. What I tend to do often these days is that I go a little bit back and forth, and I think I'll paint the trees, I'll paint the sky, I'll paint the trees again, I might paint the sky again, and that way I get a little bit of a back and forth, and it gives me some opportunity to adjust and change. So for instance, if I had painted the sky first and I had chosen that other color, like I had, it was more of a yellow green, I could have painted that over the whole entire sky and then put the trees on top of it. But then if I wanted to change the color, I would have been doing this anyways. So I guess all I'm saying is that the way that I'm painting, it allows for a little bit of flexibility with making a change. But the challenge is, how do you make these marks in a way that will maintain the soft edges on the trees as they're touching the sky? And how do you also make the marks of the sky color in a way that helps enhance the shape of the tree, so that you're, one, not cutting through something that is necessary? Like if I accidentally cut off a tree trunk and there was a half the tree suspended in the air, that would really not make sense, right? It would kind of, I'd be cutting down the tree that I'm trying to paint. And the softness of it and all that is such an important part of this, that it's always something that I'm paying attention to now at this point in my painting. I really think about that a lot. In the past, when I was younger, it was probably a weakness of mine that I never even really thought about it. And in fact, it was a painting of a tree that I thought was pretty good. And I got some feedback on it, which was really helpful. And the feedback I remember was that the tree branches had too many hard edges and they needed to be softer so that it would look a little bit more lifelike. And best advice that I got in that period of time. These trees in the back, I'm trying to play this, not a game, but those trees have some deeper shadows back there, and I realized that it might be helpful in kind of showing that depth in those trees, because there's those individual trees that are in front of the larger bunch, and if I can create a little bit more depth, I can differentiate those layers a little bit better. Because so much of this scene is really about the layers. And I'm also trying to straighten up the line of the field in that back area, because it's kind of a logical thing to our eyes and to our brain that that top of that line should connect. It's a field, like, and if my line, as it disappears behind trees, if it doesn't make sense logically that it's the same field, that's the little kind of mistake or little kind of I don't know, thing that can really throw my brain off. And you might find that kind of thing in your paintings. Like, you might have 99% of things correct, and one small detail, like, oh, these lines just don't line up. Oh, the perspective is just a little bit off. Oh, there's you cut off part of the tree trunk, that type of idea. And it can be something that really distracts, and it can be a subconscious type of thing, because you're trying to fix something in your painting, but if you don't recognize what that is, you might be trying to fix the wrong thing. But I'm also working on the shadow side of those trees, those mid-ground trees. There are a lot of parts to a painting, and we just do our best and we have fun, right? And you want to learn, and art is a great subject because you can always learn. Now, I added a little bit more because part of it is I was observing more in the reference, and it seemed like there was a bit more of a violet kind of hue on some of the grass. And also, because I changed the sky a little bit, I thought that might make a little bit more sense to have that reflected light kind of coming down. And I'm also thinking about how I see some, I don't know if they're rows, but something kind of like rows or like little tracks kind of, and they follow generally the line of the fence as it kind of comes in from the left and leads our eye back. And I thought that actually could be a nice one of those small little detail things. Again, want it to be nuanced, don't want it to just be so obvious that I think what can happen is we have an idea of leading somebody's eye, or this is a good method, this is a way to do something in art, like, but if we yell it too loud or something like if it's too obvious, it's just it loses a little bit of the appeal. So when I'm putting those marks in, I'm trying to break them up. I'm trying to add a little variety into it just so that it's not as obvious, because I am trying. I am it is a strategy. It is kind of a method. It's a technique. It's something to get the eye to move further into the painting. But I want people to not feel that like I'm trying to get them to do it, but just to be looking out over a field like we are. And then our eye naturally wants to go back there. So we're just trying to really model what we're doing after what's in front of us and what we've seen so many times. So these fence posts need to be tied in, and excuse me, there's quite a bit more depth in this front area that it's really in shadow, and I think it will help ground the painting further and make sense of the rest of the values as well. And I'm always thinking about variety, no matter what part of the painting it is. It's like you have a few concepts in a painting that seem sometimes like they're opposing. You have this idea of unity. You want your painting to be unified. At the same time, you want variety. You want harmony. You want things that work together well. And so your brain can only hold on to so many ideas at the same time. And generally, my mind is just trying to make something that visually works, and I'm not always thinking about all these quote unquote rules or concepts like that. But it is helpful to know a few of them, because every once in a while you find yourself thinking, oh, what's going on here? Where am I at? What could happen? And you think, oh, okay, well, maybe it's just lacking in unity. Like maybe there's not one part of the painting or one thing that carries through the painting enough. And that could be a base color. It could be that you maybe find you want to mix a certain color in with most of the mixes, right? And you're going to influence the entire painting with this one color. That's a way to create unity in your painting. But that's not the only way. There's quite a few ways, but sometimes it can be that type of thing that helps you realize, oh, at the end of the painting, I'm looking at it, I thought I was done, but it's not tied together. And you might paint a glaze over the entire painting to tie it together. And you probably can't finish with that because there might be more to do after that, but it's that type of idea. So I'm sorry to throw some of these more general thoughts in there, but I believe that painting and art it really is an art, right? It's not it's not like do A, B, C, and you're going to automatically come up with a beautiful scene. It's way more like, what I love is when Diana describes these types of rules, and she says they're not rules, they're tools. And so what I want you to have, and I want anybody who's working in art, like trying to become a better artist, putting yourself into it, we just want to equip you with tools. You just want to have tools in your tool belt so that when you get to that job, you get to that predicament, that problem, whatever it is, you have a tool that you can pull out, and it's the right tool for the right occasion. And you don't always know which tool you need, so that's why you need a tool belt, and you just need a bunch of tools with you. And that's the way it is with art. So I'm working on small little details back there with those trees, little tiny things like, again, variety and interest. Those trees were further back, but they were a little bit boring. The shape of them was just not that interesting. So these are the concepts that we're talking about with trees, right? How do we make them not symmetrical and just have a little bit more interest than if they were a stick with a ball on top of it? And how do we keep the sky and the leaves so that they look, they tie in together? One of the things I would point out in the sky that I have and the leaves that I have is there's less contrast in my painting than the photograph. If you look at the reference photo, you can see that the leaves are actually darker than what I've put in my painting. And that's not necessarily wrong, if you paint them darker. But what I would say is that with them being a little bit lighter, I think it's a little bit easier to keep those edges soft. And I do come through and I do deepen it up a bit and darken the leaves up because it needs a little bit more depth to me. But you can have a more similar value and change the color, change the hue, and you will have, by nature of the values being similar, you'll have a soft edge. Because most of the time, our brain is looking at contrast when it's seeing hard edges. How light is one thing and how dark is the thing next to it. So we're in this stage of refining. We're looking at all the areas of the painting, highlights. Can we bring a little bit more depth to certain things? Can we erase things that are distracting? Some of the yellow that's coming through is slightly distracting to me, so I'm kind of just deleting it from the painting so that it doesn't draw my eye or anybody else's eye out of the painting, off to the side too much. But what we really have here is a scene it's developing, right? We have some depth. We can see how by making those farthest trees, which now they actually kind of look, they're so far away that we can't really distinguish individual trees, but we know that that's a large hill of trees in the back. But because it's pushed back, because it's lighter and there's more blue, I mean, we definitely have depth there. And so the things that we're thinking about with trees are working in this scene pretty well. And so it's really thinking about the scene overall. And there are lots of trees in the painting, and they're various distance from us. So the amount of detail that we see is going to change. But I really like how there's depth, and some of the depth can be really close to each other. And these trees on the left side, they have some shrubs, some smaller trees, some brush in front of the larger set. And just by adding a couple brush strokes, right? You can hint at something. You can bring, oh, there's branches that are hanging down. There's these shrubs and small trees in front. And our eyes don't need to see everything because our brain is smart enough to put pieces together. And I always love this quote from C.W. Mundy. He says, "Don't insult your viewer. Um, don't, you don't need to tell them every detail. The 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 eyes and the brain really can make sense of a lot of things that aren't explained in full detail in a painting. You just need to get the small details that you do put in, the few things that tell, that define and describe. They need to just be accurate enough that your brain can put together the rest of it."
Okay, that's a good stopping point. We're going to stop now and we're going to give away the prize. And I see lots more questions that you guys have. So I want to also say that if you don't get your question answered in the chat, because I'm trying to keep up with the chat and trying to answer questions, and there's a few of us in there just trying to make sure that you get addressed if you have a question. If that doesn't happen during the chat, make sure you stay till the end, because we're going to have a time where we can just kind of rapid fire go through questions and answer them at the very end. But Peter, are you ready for this giveaway?
Yes, sir. So I was just gonna say a couple things real quick, guys. My mic is on, right? Can you hear me? All right,
We can
perfect.
hear you.
So, to be eligible to win, you have to have chatted in the past 5 minutes. So if you haven't said anything yet, just shout yourself out, say where you're from, say hi, say what you loved about the day, whatever you feel drawn to say. And also, some of you were confused about the chat. I did have to put it into slow mode, and then I also put it into subscribers only mode because it's just going way too fast to answer questions. But it seems like most of you guys were able to catch on to that pretty quickly. So thank you guys so much, and we'll give it a second here to let all the messages roll through.
Okay, awesome. And I'll take this minute just to talk with you guys real briefly, because I don't know if you've been around me, you'll know that one of the things that I think about is I think about skill in art. I think about how important it is to develop ourselves, but I also think about our mindset. I think a lot about how fear intimidates us, and the whole thing about practice is that to get better, you have to try. But what fear wants to do is it wants to keep you from even trying. It wants to hold you back so that you don't ever even take those steps that would help you grow. So I talk sometimes about fear, and what we need to do to overcome that. And so I'm just going to say this: like, you might not know that other artists struggle with fear, but I would say that pretty much every artist struggles at some level with fear. And I will say this, that as you continue to develop your skills, confidence will come. That will come, but your next step might just have to be one that you take out of sheer courage. Courage is, hey, I might still feel afraid, I might still feel kind of intimidated by this, but I'm going to step into it. And that is something that is noble and valiant. And so I have always used this image for the last couple of years, and I love it so much because this is what I want you to envision yourself as, is this bold, creative lion that, yeah, we don't want to have fear, but what we're going to do is we're going to raise ourselves up with courage, and we're going to step forward with courage, because we want to move forward, and we want to have the chance to grow in our skills. So anyways, that's all I wanted to say about that, but just want to encourage you with that as you're moving into this, your own practice painting and stuff. Sometimes you're going to have to just go, confidence will come as I keep getting better. But right now, I'm going to raise myself up with courage, and I'm going to move forward with courage.
Absolutely. So yeah, looks like a lot of you are all signed up, ready to go. So I'm just gonna go ahead and roll this, and we're gonna pick our winner here.
Okay, guys, and this is for a $200 gift card for art supplies. So I'm excited to see who this is. Now we've got this chat helper that's doing all this stuff automatically in the background. You can just imagine right now it's spinning its wheels and it's doing its
All
thing. And I'm
right.
looking at Peter's eyes and he's
Yeah,
ready.
so we got Mike Nally is the winner. So Mike
All
Nally,
right.
congratulations. You just won yourself a $200 Blick gift card. How fancy is that? And we'll go ahead and throw that email up there where you can get in touch with us and we'll get you all the details of your prize and stuff like that. So
Can we put his name in there too, just so he knows, we know exactly who it is?
yeah. Like in the chat or?
Yeah, just show it on the screen so we have that.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm
Let
just
me go
thinking I
find
might
the
hear wrong. Mike
yeah.
Nally is what I heard, but
Yeah,
I
let me
don't
go
know.
find the message. You guys are
Okay.
drowning each other in support here.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay. Well,
Let's
anyways,
see.
Mike, make sure you email us and we will get this back to you. We're excited. Oh, there it is. Mike Nally has won the giveaway. All right, guys.
Mhm.
Congratulations, Mike. We're excited. And we're gonna roll the rest of the demo here. And at the very end of it, we will do our Q&A. Okay.
Mhm.
So stick with us. It's about 15 more minutes of the painting and we'll be done with everything. And you can ask as many questions as you want. We'll stick around as long as we can. So thank you guys so much.
All
And
right.
this sunlit area, I'm working to make that as bright and beautiful as possible. And I also get this idea that, shoot, I could kind of work with the idea of these clouds, but I'm not going to do it the same way. I'm just going to shape some clouds with the background sky color. I have this lighter, it's such a light yellow, but what if I just kind of went behind and made it feel like there's clouds there? They're soft, they're subtle, they're not, too complicated, but as I was sitting and looking at it, I thought, yeah, I actually kind of like this. I'm not going to do too much. I'm not going to overwork it or define it too much, but yeah, it just adds a little bit of interest to the sky. And hopefully it all ties in with, the rest of the painting fine, and just need to make sure that some of the places, if I do cut through, the background sky color isn't standing out too much or too bright or not the right color, not the right value. But when I kind of squint my eyes and look at the scene, I think that it's things are tying together, things are making sense. So the last or the that background hill, as I'm thinking about the light and how it influences everything, I'm thinking, yeah, that background hill could be a little bit lighter and it could show that the sun is coming from the left. So I'm just like in the sky, there's a bit of a gradation. It's lighter on the left and it kind of moves a little bit darker towards the right. I'm doing the same thing in that hill. Those farthest trees that are back there that basically make up a hill, I'm trying to let them show and tell the story of the setting sun also. So you can see there's a little bit more violet and red that I mixed in on the left side, and it's moving more towards blue as that hill goes to the right. Little things like that. That's just part of the story that we're telling. But I want to get a few details in and maybe reshape that hill just a little bit too. The details are kind of the last thing that you want to do. I work with bigger brushes generally as long as I can to make myself, to kind of force myself to not get caught up in the details, but think about the main point. Like, what is the main thing that we're trying to do here? What are the big pieces that make this scene work? And if you get those main pieces in and they're making sense, the little details are much easier to figure out. If you get it backwards and you do a lot of the little details, and they can be doing great on their own, but if the big painting, the big pieces aren't working together, it's never going to be enough detail to make the painting great, because you have to have the main part be the main part. But I'm really getting to this place where I'm just kind of looking and thinking, are my highlights right? Are they as bright as they could be? Do I need to do a little bit more here? Is there something to define a little bit more? And I'm thinking, yeah, maybe I could bring up the value of this highlight here on this grass. It's small details, but sometimes these small details, one person said, the final 10% of a painting is, well, I'm trying to think of the exact quote. I think they said it's something to the effect like, to get to 90% it's like, it's the last 10% that makes the painting. So it's an important part, because it's easy in a way to block in a painting, but finishing the painting, knowing, oh, it's done now, that's a lot harder. It's so harder to know when that happens. And so being aware of that is helpful. And I also think, from my perspective, my point of view, I love what my teacher Robert Gann said. He said, it's better to have a painting that is 10% unfinished rather than 1% overdone. And I always think about that in the later stages of a painting, because it's real easy to just mindlessly paint. What you want is, you want to think, what am I working on? Like, is this something that is helping the painting move forward, or am I just enjoying this process? And because painting is enjoyable and you get lost in time, right? I mean, sometimes you're thinking like, wow, I can't believe that this much time went by. because it's fun and it's mesmerizing. But you could be working on another painting and having fun too. So don't just keep working on the first painting because you want to keep painting. Maybe it's good to just say, okay, let's set it down, and then I'll work on a different painting, and maybe I'm done with that first one, or maybe I'll look at it again and I'll have a new set of eyes. Now, I did stop and I set it down for a time, and I was looking at it and I thought, what else could be better? What could be better? And one thing I thought was, every tree trunk, they went from basically the bottom to the top, and there were no leaves in front of the tree trunks. And I thought, that's not realistic. That's not the way it is. There's got to be some leaves that are covering up some of these tree trunks. So I got my paints back out, and I thought, let's just do that. Let's cover up some of these tree trunks, put some leaves in front of them. Again, a small detail, not a huge deal to add, but I think it made a good difference. So you guys, thank you so much for being here. I hope that you had as much fun as I did. There's the
All right, guys, so fun. And I'm going to pull Diana here to the stage with me. And Peter, I don't know if you are able to give us, if you want to come on stage, and we can do a quick Q&A. But right before, I guess I should do this one thing before I do this. I want to just talk to you guys about what's happening next time, because this is really important. Next session, guys, we have Diana is going to be teaching on water. 11 a.m. on Wednesday. That's Pacific time, 11 a.m. That will be 2 p.m. East Coast time. And guys, you really don't want to miss that. That's really what I wanted to just say here real quick, is that teaching and that demonstration is going to be one that you'll gain so much, because water is quite tricky. Water has so many variables in it, and it's such a beautiful subject, but it's also tricky. So you're going to want to be here for Diana's. Are you excited about that one, Diana? Oh, we can't hear you. Uh-oh.
We'll see if. Okay, yeah, we'll give you just a sec. Just give me a okay. Robin Max
how to get
says
things to stop running. Please, I need to know how to get it out of the carpet. Mom is mad. Oh, I'm very sorry about that. I don't know how to help on that, except that you maybe want to turn your painting, make it more of a flat surface if it's running down. And I'd also recommend just getting a drop cloth or something underneath you so that it's not soaking into the carpet.
Real quick, Diana, show of hands, thumbs up, thumbs down, maybe?
Nope, not yet.
Okay, we can hear you.
You
Yeah, we
got
can
it.
hear you now. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I can
we
hear you
can.
now.
All right. I can hear me.
Yeah, we'll try and get through
Yeah.
excuse me, as many of these as we can. What surface are you painting on? I believe it's Centurion linen panel or Limbus
No,
linen canvas panel.
this was actually a PDF or a whatever. It's like a MDF board on a panel. It's a panel.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's kind of it's smooth.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you always paint with a limited palette?
Not always, but a lot of the times I do. I got some of that idea from Diana, and it's just a way to simplify everything. It's really great.
Yep. Jennifer K, how do you decide what color? Yeah.
Okay, what color to paint your canvas before you start the painting? Now, I just kind of on this painting, I just chose a color that everybody had. It was cadmium yellow. I was like, okay, it'll be a warm color underneath. But a lot of times I just choose random colors. I'm not super thoughtful about it. I just kind of pick something because I know that any color, almost any color will work. It's just a different process to get to the end for me. So I just like to experiment, and it makes it more fun.
Do you add drying extender to your paint?
No, I just use a Stay Wet palette.
Mhm.
Yep. And if you type !palette in the chat, you can get some more information about that, including a detailed setup guide. What kind of paint box are you using?
That paint box is just it's a bead box from Michaels. And Diana, you use something a little different.
Yeah, it's just a fishing tackle box. And I got mine at the dollar store. I just bought a full pile of them and I put it in a Ziploc bag when I'm done scooping the paints out. So
Yeah,
awesome.
Easy. Yeah.
Super easy.
Do the different brands work together? Golden Liquitex, Basics, Winsor Newton.
Yeah, they do. The only thing that you want to pay attention to is that you're not using Golden Open, or at least that you're paying attention to that, because that's already got medium drying, kind of like a slow dry medium in it. So that would work a little bit differently. You could still probably mix it with something else, but you just want to know what it is that you're mixing.
How do I watch this again? So it'll be available right here on our YouTube channel until the end of day next Wednesday, or you can go to the dashboard, and that is at the Acrylic Landscape work or the landscapeworkshop.com.
Okay, yes. Somebody asked, "What is our homework?" And I let me show this, guys. Can I just quickly do this, because I somehow I missed this slide. Here's the homework, you guys. You are going to choose a reference. You're either going to choose the one that we provided for you and paint the scene that I just did, or you can find your own. You're going to paint a scene, and the one caveat is include some trees in your scene. If you're picking your own, make sure it's got some trees in it, and apply the 3 techniques. That is soft edges, that is interesting shapes, and that is receding values, right? Think about those 3 things. Then you're going to take a photo of your painting and you're going to submit it on the dashboard. And that will get you eligible for the next round when we're here together on Wednesday. You could win the prize on Wednesday by submitting your painting, or it will make you eligible for the final celebration prizes that happen next Monday. Okay, I'm done. Done with that part.
Oh yeah, let me pull us back up here. So okay. How do your paints stay wet in the bead holder you use? I believe you just mist them every now and then, right? And then keep them sealed.
Yeah,
in a Ziploc
mist them
bag.
and close the tops, and they stay. Well, if I'm painting with them, there's so much paint in there that it doesn't dry out very fast. It really doesn't.
Make sure that they're full, though. If they're empty, if you have a tiny dot in there, there's air. You fill those container wells up so there's not a lot of air in the well. So when you close it, there's no air in there. A lot of people put a tiny dot in and say, "Why did it dry out?" Yeah. Can I address another question I saw? Which was, how do you know when to quit? And that is, know how you want your painting to look when you start. And as soon as it gets to that point, stop. That's how you know how to quit. If you're tired, you just add details, and they don't necessarily add up to what you wanted to start to paint.
Yeah, I also, Dana, during a recent workshop, I heard you say something that was like super helpful. I think you said you need to quit when every brushstroke changes the painting or something like that. Yeah.
What about this question? What colors do we need for Wednesday's water lesson? Diana?
I used ultramarine blue, phthalo blue green shade, quinacridone primary magenta, and cadmium yellow. I'm not sure if it was light or medium, but it's one of those, and titanium white.
Yeah,
it's in the supply list. If you go onto the web, it's on the supply list.
Yes. And if you don't have those exact colors, guys, and you have like a different variation, like she has cadmium medium and you have cadmium yellow light or whatever, that's totally fine. So,
its own.
Okay,
harmony.
are Golden Open acrylics good for this workshop? Sure, they totally are fine. Is there a deadline to submit homework? Yeah, you need to get it done for sure to be eligible for the celebration. Make sure you get it done by next Monday morning. But if you want to win a prize on Wednesday, get it done by Wednesday morning. That's the deadline. Paint thickness. Oh, sorry, Peter.
Oh, sorry about that. I just want to answer this real quick. Can we use another color for the base coat? And I was just going to say, yes, you guys don't have to copy Jed and Diana exactly. Like, we want you to experiment and try, you know, what you feel kind of led to do. So yeah, you can totally use another color for the base coat. Go ahead, Jed.
Okay. Paint thickness discussion, please. Thick full body versus thinner. I don't know exactly what you mean by discussion on that. Like, but I would just say you can use whatever paint. It's just like one is thinner, one is thicker. Like if you have a golden fluid acrylic, it's thinner, but it has so much pigment that it will still cover and do everything that your heavy body will do. But it's just, do you want more texture? Do you want it to be a thicker, you know, coat? All that kind of thing. So that's a personal preference kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, we went over the homework. Will live chat be on the replay? It's nice to read questions and answers. Yes, it is. It should be. Live chat replay should be available. Can we see the reference photo? Evelyn asks.
Yeah, you can go to the dashboard, thelandscapeworkshop.com. Everything is there. Everything, absolutely everything that you need is there. And we try to make it very simple for you, but you just have to go to that site, thelandscapeworkshop.com, and you'll find everything that you need.
Yep, right there. I'll leave that up for a little bit and we'll just answer questions.
Okay. I see somebody ask this question: is Wednesday a watercolor? So no, it's not a watercolor on Wednesday. It is the subject matter is water.
Yeah.
So we're painting in acrylics, but we're going to be painting water, and Diana will do a bunch of teaching related to how to paint water.
I will.
Should we prepare a canvas for Wednesday?
You can if you want. You do my underlayer wet and do some wiping on it. So I would suggest just waiting, have your canvas white and ready. And then watch, just like today, watch and then replay, paint later, because you'll get a lot of info along the way that you'll want to apply to the beginning of the painting.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to try to keep going. Will you be doing oh, whoa. Did you do that one?
I did.
You beat me to the...
We're on the
That's
same
funny.
page.
We both clicked. Will you be doing a painting demo on Monday? Next Monday, Diana and I are both doing a demonstration at the same time. So in a week from today, we will be painting side by side, and we're going to be painting the same scene. So it'll be fun for you guys to see how each of us will kind of attack the same subject.
Yeah, totally. Yep.
I got one here. Are the colors on the dashboard? Yes. Everything you need is on the dashboard. If you want to ask about any other supplies, I just say yes, 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 yes. It's all on the dashboard. Go to thelandscapeworkshop.com.
Yes.
And I'm sorry that I know some people come in late and different things. So I know that we can't really repeat it enough because, you know, people miss things because they're not here all at the same time. But just remember that and write that down, put that somewhere where you can remember. And if you have any questions, you'll find your answers there.
Yes.
Do I ever rinse my brush? Yeah, a lot of people ask this during the demonstration, and I was rinsing it off screen. You couldn't see it, you couldn't hear it or anything like that, but I was rinsing my brush, cleaning out, and it just wasn't part of the demonstration that you could see.
Someone asks, what additional colors do you use?
Well, that's a big question. We have lots of colors probably that we use for different reasons and different times. but for this workshop, you really don't need to worry about that. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, totally. Okay, yep.
Do I need to watch Wednesday live to win? That's a good question. No, you actually don't, but you really need to watch it at some point pretty like as quickly as you can, because we will put your name on there. And you need to be able to write us and say like, hey, you know, I see that I won.
Yeah.
And I'm here, right? Now you don't have to actually be there live because there's a little bit of a grace period in there. But if you're like watching it much later, we will have given the prize away to somebody else.
Yep. And then one thing I just want to point out real quick, guys. It was brought to my attention the submission page doesn't have the submission form there yet. So we'll make sure to update that in the next like hour or so.
Yeah, that'll be done.
So
Thank you, Peter, for bringing that up.
yep.
It's ready to go. We just didn't want people getting confused and submitting things before the workshop was actually live and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Are you going to turn off the chat again on Wednesday? I never turned the chat off. I just put it into subscribers only mode because it was hard to like catch up with any questions at all because it's going so fast. I know that was confusing for some people, so I'm sorry about that. Not totally sure whether or not we'll do that again, but if we do that again, all you have to do is click subscribe to the channel and you'll be able to chat right away. So
and that's just a click of a button. It really isn't that hard, right? I
yeah,
think
and it prompts you when you it'll say
okay.
Mhm.
To use transparent or opaque. Well, I think both Diana and I have colors that are transparent and opaque in our palette most of the time. Like ultramarine blue is more of a transparent color. Phthalo blue is more of a transparent color. They're both blues that we will use, while a cadmium yellow or like titanium white, of course, is opaque. There's lots of colors that are opaque in our palettes, different times.
Yeah, so you can submit one painting from each session, and that will give you a maximum of 3 entries for the grand prize next Monday. So, yes, submit one painting from the lesson after each session.
Diana,
what do you recommend? Are we painting along with you or just watching?
I paint pretty fast. I get really I get really quick. So you might want to watch first and paint later.
It'll be easier. I think what I would say is if you want to paint along,
you
go for it.
Yeah.
You go for it. But if you start falling behind and you're starting to feel like you're behind or something, then just lay your stuff down and then just watch and pick it up later when you have the chance to be more relaxed with it.
Yeah. And also not to compare yourself with me doing a demo. Sometimes my demos aren't really that great, but it's always better just to zone in and do your own work too and really feel it for yourself.
Yeah. Can we make up our own picture? Yes, you sure can, Irene. If you want to. The only thing is that if you don't have a reference, it's totally fine for this workshop for sure. But where you will have a harder time sometimes is it's kind of tricky to make things up and to make it realistic or to like imagine the correct lighting and things like that. So you totally can. And just try to keep those principles in mind. But that would be my one thought is, it can be hard to make things up unless you have something to kind of go from. So I might just have a picture in front of you. If you're going to make changes, just refer back to certain aspects of the picture.
This is a good question from Sarah. Do you have a source we could use to browse good reference images, or what do you recommend looking for that makes a great reference photo?
Diana, what do you think?
Well, I just take a million photos, but what is that website I go to? It's out of my mind right now. There's a website you can go for free reference photos.
Is it Unsplash?
Unsplash is a good one, and you can type in a subject that you're interested in or a location perhaps. And there are also Facebook groups I know that people have told me about that are specifically like reference photos for painters. So those are kind of a cool place too. It's just people upload lots and lots of their own reference photos into it, and they say, hey, anybody can use this, and you can just join the group and download those reference photos.
Thank you, Jamie. She says if you're on Facebook, there's a group called Free Reference Photos for Artists. So there you go, guys.
Look at that. Okay, Sharon, this is like, maybe I'm so thankful you asked this. Do you have a beginner's video on YouTube? I've never painted ever. So any assistance on where to begin would be appreciated. Listen, so Diana and I are going to make a more thorough video at some point that will be probably a little bit longer, but I am actually making one right now that is going to be a crash course on acrylics. It's just like, hey, it's not going to go into detail about really that much, but it will give you a starting point for everything that is essential for painting. And I'm actually in the midst of editing it right now, and I'm hoping that I will have it available tomorrow. So we will put a link for you. We'll give you an email. We'll give you something where you'll be able to find it once it's ready and available for you. Because I know that if you haven't painted at all, there are certain things that you might not even know where to start. And so we're doing these things specifically for you. And hopefully in the future, not too far, Diana and I will have our collaborative video ready for you as well.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, I'm just going to leave this up here again. Everything, reference photos, supply lists, all that stuff right here on the dashboard. Where do I sign up? That's actually a good question, because we could have people from YouTube who aren't.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you go to the dashboard, you can sign up right there. If you go to the landscape workshop, that is actually, it has a link there that says, like, if you forgot to register, and it will also have a link for that text service. So if you want to get a text when we're going live on Wednesday, sign up right there. It's if you have a question, try the landscapeworkshop.com first, because it will probably have the answer for you. And if not, you can email us.
Yeah. And we even added a little chat window where you can literally, bottom right on mobile or desktop, you can click on it and you can ask any question and it should answer it. If it doesn't, then it will guide you further to get in contact with support. And then Sharon, thank you so much. You're very welcome. Definitely be on the lookout for that. We'll notify people when that video is ready to go, that beginner's video.
And look at that. Somebody just asked if they could see the painting. So I'm going to show it here. This is it, you guys. Where it ended on the day that I finished, and I haven't done anything since the end of the demonstration on it. So you can kind of see, I think, there might be a couple things to work on it, but I was pretty happy with the way it turned out. Like Diana said, you never know with a demonstration if it'll be any good or not, so you're always kind of like hoping that it turns out somewhat good. But if it's not, it doesn't really matter. As long as you guys learn something, like about the principles that we're trying to convey, that's the most important thing. So yeah, there it is. Yep. And I think that we should be done, you guys, because we want to honor your time. I want to just get you guys painting. I know that you probably you're itching to get going if you weren't already painting. And if you were and you had to stop, then you have a chance now to get back into it. So guys, I want you to know you are loved and believed in. Diana and Peter and I are so thankful that you're here. All the rest of Acrylic University and our team, we're so thankful that you're here. And we are just looking forward to seeing what you guys do. We're looking forward to you taking the next step forward in your creative journey. And we're going to look forward to seeing you on Wednesday when Diana shares, and you're going to get so much out of it, guys. So make sure that you show up on Wednesday and submit your homework beforehand. And that way we'll get you eligible for a prize. Guys, thank you for being here.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. And we will see you very, very soon.
Bye everybody.